Hey everyone, JM here at Disciple Dojo, and I wanted to take a minute to tell you about one of our other ministries. We've talked here about our Refugee Jitsu outreach. Refugee Jitsu, for those who don't know, is our free self-defense, anti-bullying outreach that we offer every week here in Charlotte for kids from the refugee, immigrant, as well as local lower income populations. And we've been doing that for about 8 years and reached over 100 kids through the program. But another ministry that Disciple Dojo does that you may not know about is on Facebook. It's called the Grown-Ups Table. This is a community for single Christians. A lot of us single Christians, and I am a single Christian. I've never been married. I don't have kids, and I'm not alone. There are a lot of us in churches and not in churches within the body of Christ. And ministering to this demographic is something that most churches either don't know how to do or don't even really care to do, because single people don't have kids and youth, and they don't sponsor family events. They aren't a key demographic in the community. You know, churches seem to, pun intended, focus on the family. And so those who don't have family often end up falling through the cracks in churches. Now, I've felt this keenly and starkly over probably the past 10 years or so, and in particular over the last 3 or 4 years. And so this past Thanksgiving, when I was home for the holidays, I realized there needs to be a way for single Christians to connect with each other, whether it's because they don't want to be single anymore and they want to meet someone and get married and get out of the single Christian demographic, or whether it's they just want to connect with others. They have no desire really to get married. They're happy being single. They're content, but they need community because they're not getting it in their church. So whatever the reason, anybody who is a single Christian, whether they have kids, whether they don't have kids, whether they're single, widowed, divorced, we started this group, the Grown-Ups Table, as a place for them to come and not feel odd, not feel out of place. Even in church functions where churches invite singles, there's still a feeling of isolation. And we talk about things like this in the group. The group is primarily for discussion. It's for connection. A number of people from the group connect with each other and organize events. We're going to do a ski trip coming up in a couple of months, and I'm hoping to organize a summer beach retreat. We've had a couple of people in other parts of the country get together through the group and meet up for some other activity. That's what we're trying to encourage through the group. So if you know anyone who's single and they're Christian, have them check out the group. I'm going to put a link in the description. There are group rules that everybody has to agree to, and there are 3 questions that you have to answer in order to join the group. But if you answer those 3 questions and you agree with the rules, then we'd love to have you at the Grown-Ups Table. We called it the Grown-Ups Table because sometimes, even when you're an adult, if you're not married, you kind of feel like you belong at the kids' table, or sometimes you're made to feel like you belong at the kids' table. And so this is just a place that Disciple Dojo has started online for people who are looking for connection to be able to find it, whether it's dating, whether it's just friendship, fellowship, people to laugh with, people to push one another theologically, all of the things that you do in community. That's what we're trying to help create, to help foster. I wanted to share with you a couple of comments from some discussions that we've had in the group, especially for those of you who are not single. If you're in churches, especially if you're a pastor, I want you to hear some of these comments, because these are the kinds of things that people in your church or people in the community who you would probably want to be at your church, these are the kind of things that they experience. So I just want to give you a glimpse into some of the things that we've talked about. Now, all of the discussions in the Grown-Ups Table are not deep and heavy. We make things fun. It's not a group of everybody sitting around bemoaning their singleness. That's the last thing anybody wants to be a part of. But part of authentic community is honestly acknowledging things that are difficult with one another in a place where there's empathy, where there's understanding. And sadly, again, that's not always found in churches. Here's what I mean. Sometimes Christian singles in churches get told when they open up about their struggle being single, well, you know what the Bible says, it's better to be single than to be married, and marriage is really hard, so enjoy your singleness. It's a gift from God. This is what somebody said in response to that in the Grown-Ups Table discussion. When I mentioned how that kind of platitude often does the opposite of what it's intended to do, it doesn't in the slightest make me feel better about being single. It makes me feel patronized, as if I don't understand that marriage would be hard, but yet it's still something that I desire. Somebody commented and said, yes, same. We don't tell parents trying to conceive, Well, your life is just easier without kids, so be thankful and accept that you can't have kids as a gift. Most churches, no, they minister to people that are dealing with infertility. They know the pain that barrenness and inability to have children can cause in someone's life, even though kids are hard. Even though families are difficult, even though raising a child is not easy, you still would probably not go to a couple or a person who's struggling with infertility and tell them, well, this is really a gift, so you should embrace it as such. No, that would be the worst way to minister to that person. So don't do that to single people, even if you believe it, even if you genuinely believe it and you think Paul's advice about his own personal singleness in the midst of his apostolic journeys and the persecution that early Christians were starting to face, even if you think that his advice has nothing to do with that and he is generally speaking that it's better in all ways to be single than to be married, and so you want to encourage somebody in their singleness, don't do it. Just don't do it. Let them find that gift for themselves, if that's what it is. Because for most of us, it doesn't feel like a gift. When we talk about holidays, we started the grown-ups table over Thanksgiving. It was the night after Thanksgiving when I sat down and wrote up the rules and created the group on Facebook and sent out invitations. And Thanksgiving, like any holiday, but particularly Thanksgiving and Christmas, those travel holidays, those are really hard for many single people, especially single people without kids. Because what happens is, as you stay single and your family members, your siblings, your cousins, other people, as they start having kids, the celebration of Christmas goes to that next generation. And so Christmas and Thanksgiving and these travel holidays kind of start to become focused on the next generation of kids and giving kids that magical holiday feeling, which is a good thing. I mean, we all want that. The problem is, if you're not in that kid's demographic, then sometimes you can feel like you just kind of got your holiday taken away from you. Somebody in the group shared this in a discussion on that topic. Said, thank you for the reminder. It's a small thing that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of life, but this year I got no presents from anyone. When everyone opened presents, I felt a bit awkward, but just acted excited for my nieces and nephews. I just hope and pray one day I find my person and can make memories with them that make up for all the years of being alone and feeling on the outside. Praying for everyone struggling this year. And I just responded. I said, I don't think that's small at all. It's incredibly painful on a holiday that consists so heavily in gift giving. I don't think you need to minimize that pain at all. It's not the lack of material gift. It's the lack of thoughtfulness. I'm sorry that happened to you. That's what it is. It's not that this person was upset because they didn't get gifts. The gifts don't matter. It's they didn't even get thought about. That's what hurts. And that happens a lot, especially among single people, and especially single people who don't have kids, because they don't even have that child to give a magical holiday to. They end up feeling completely overlooked. And sometimes this only gets exacerbated in churches. When churches are so focused on the family that they end up not focusing on the body, people slip through the cracks. One of the members of the group shared this when we were talking about this problem in a discussion. Before I was divorced, I heard a single in my church say, church is one of the loneliest places for singles. I didn't understand then, but now I completely do. I live in a small town, so all the churches are small and don't have any singles groups or activities or anything. And all the outreaches are focused towards the family unit. It's very easy to feel isolated. Not saying that ministry to families isn't important. I'm just saying that ministry to people who don't have family, or at least don't have family nearby, is just as important. It should be just as much of a priority for your church, not an option, not an add-on. And this last comment I want to share, this one really hit me hard. I actually know the person that shared this comment. This is an incredible person. There are so many times, and I'm going to be candid, there are so many times that I go to church, whether I'm out of town or whether I'm here in town. There's so many times I go to church because it's an obligation. I know that we are not supposed to give up meeting together as some have been prone to do, but to continue encouraging one another. I know the passage in Hebrews. I know that Christians are not meant to do life solo. I know that we need fellowship with other believers. The problem is Sometimes we have a hard time finding that fellowship in our churches. And this is not in particular churches. I would say this is probably the case in most churches for single people. I'm fortunate to be part of a really amazing church that's doing amazing things. But I so very much resonated with what this person said in this comment. They said, I wish I could narrow down the times I've been shunned for being single and or given more work for being single. We were talking about how sometimes people just assume if you don't have a family or you're not married, you have more free time. You can do more stuff at the church. You can help out more. You're not as busy, and how that's kind of frustrating and patronizing and just not true. We're just as busy, just with other things. They said, it's one of my biggest issues with the church, and frankly, why I stopped going until I can come to peace with it. I live in the South, where being 44 and successful means nothing, because I'm 44, barren, and husbandless, and I get enough questions about it in my daily life. I simply cannot take it in the one place that's supposed to care for everyone. I simply do not matter as much because it's just me. That's been told in a number of different ways throughout my life. So I decided I'd rather have a personal relationship with Christ where I didn't feel sad every single Sunday. I do things I really love on Sunday. Long, quiet times, cook a delicious breakfast, take a long walk, work out. I dive deeper into my relationship with Christ and hope one day his church will not make me feel less than every time I walk through the door. And here's the thing. I think most churches would never in a million years think that somebody would feel this way who's one of their members. I think most churches think they're doing pretty good at reaching singles. I think most churches think, well, yeah, we welcome everyone. But honestly, I think this is a blind spot that most churches have. If you're a church leader, whether a pastor, an elder, or you're on the ministry board, whatever your role in leadership at your church is, ask a member who is not married, and specifically ask a member who doesn't have kids and is single, how connected they feel at your church. Ask them their impression. Don't load the question. Don't ask it in a way that communicates to them that you really want them to say, oh, you guys are doing great. No, just ask them honestly, candidly. Give them permission to tell you as a church leader if that's an area where you guys are dropping the ball. Encourage them to be honest with you about things that they wish you would do as a church. We don't know our blind spots. That's why they're called blind spots. So we have to have people show us our blind spots. When it comes to ministering to single Christians, most churches in my nearly 45 years of life, I will say, as someone who's born and raised in the church, a preacher's kid, went into ministry, has always been active in the church, I can tell you, most churches, in my context, don't realize how isolated many, if not most, single members of their congregation feel. I've done a video here before. You might not recognize me because I was super bald, on 5 things churches can do if they're serious about reaching single adults. If you haven't seen that video, I really encourage you to watch it. And if it resonates with you, I encourage you to share it, especially with ministry leaders. We, and I say we collectively, we, the body of Christ, churches, we have to do better. We just have to. So if you're a pastor and a ministry leader, find ways, seek out ways that you can make unmarried, childless members of your congregation know that they belong. Ways that you can make them feel that they belong, just like you would any other group that you are trying to reach. And if you're single and you feel like this last commenter that you don't have a place, if you have access, if you're watching this, you have access to the internet clearly. So hop on Facebook and find us. Just go to groups and put in Grown-Ups Table. We would love to have you join this community. It's growing. We started it just a couple of months ago. We're already well over 500 members all over the country, some even around the world. So check it out. It might be a place where you connect, and God might use it to help give you that fellowship that you are so longing for. That's our desire here at Disciple Dojo. As always, everything Disciple Dojo does is entirely donor funded. We really could use monthly supporters, people who like this ministry and want to see it grow, whether it's the Grown-Ups Table, whether it's our Refugee Jitsu outreach, or whether it's our YouTube channel here that provides biblical teaching and resource reviews. If anything that Disciple Dojo does resonates with you, just know we need support. We need financial monthly donors. I told the board I would be more vocal this year about letting people know our needs, because sometimes it's easy to assume that if everything's continuing, then everything is fine financially. But no, we're growing and we have financial challenges, and we are at the maximum of what we can do with the current level of support that we have. And so I just want to encourage you, if you resonate with anything Disciple Dojo does, please consider becoming a monthly donor at whatever dollar amount you're able to spare. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned here in the dojo. We've got more reviews. We've got more Bible teaching. We've got more interviews with biblical scholars. We've got more superhero seminary episodes, all the stuff that this channel is all about. There's more coming down the pipe. So look forward to bringing it to you. And we'll see you next time back here at Disciple Dojo.